When it comes to dealing with roundabouts, there are many different types that you have to come across as a driver. That will include normal roundabouts and trying to figure out what lane you need to go in. It will mean mini roundabouts. It will mean spiral or laned roundabouts. And there are even roundabouts where you have to give way to traffic from your left. So before we do that, what does the highway code say about roundabouts? Well, it says if we're going left, signal left and use the left-hand lane. If we're going right, it says signal right and approach in the right-hand lane. For any intermediate exit, choose the lane that is the most appropriate on approach. So there are variations, there are different road markings and signs. However, the picture that accompanies it clearly shows that if you're going straight ahead, it's the left-hand lane. It doesn't say left or right, it specifically shows that straight ahead would be left-hand lane, unless the road markings or signs said different. Now let's look at the DVSA's book, Driving the Essential Skills, written by the driving examiners. What does this say when it comes to roundabouts? Because we should know this book really well. Well, do you notice it says there, when going left, we indicate left and approach in the left-hand lane, which is what the highway code says. What about going right? Well, at the bottom, going right, approach in the right-hand lane. So that leaves, what about going ahead? Well, here it's very specific. Driving the Essential Skills, the 2023 version says going ahead, approach in the left-hand lane. However, if you can't use the left-hand lane because, for example, it's blocked, use the lane next to it. But other than that, it is very specific, both in the highway code with the picture, straight ahead is left-hand lane, or in Driving the Essential Skills, going ahead, approach in the left lane. So how do we do this? Well, the first thing we need to do is identify there's a roundabout coming up. Now, most times roundabouts will have signs before them, like you can see on the page on the right there. They can be the normal large directional signs, or like in the background of the top picture and the triangle on the right there, they could just be triangular warning signs telling you there's one coming up. Sometimes you may not even have one, so the only way you can tell is the black and white chevrons and the blue and white one-way arrow sign. In addition to this, something that's becoming more and more common is to have roundabout signs that are square and just give directions, like the one on the left there. Do you notice it just says left, right, or straight ahead? It doesn't give you a diagram of the roundabout. It just helps you to determine what lane position you need on approach to it. But then we need to figure out, is it an open junction or a closed junction? Just like we did when we were merging left and right, because if it's a closed junction, like the one in this picture, we know we're probably going to have to come up and either go very slowly or stop before seeing if it's clear and we can go. However, if it's a big, wide, open roundabout and you can see clearly that it is empty, then you are okay to keep going. And this is an example of an open roundabout. We can already see the car coming from the right. The motorbikes are coming off at the first exit. So already we can tell that once that car has gone past us, there's a big empty space, so we don't need to come up to the roundabout and stop. We can just keep glancing and then jump in behind the car into the gap. Now, as we come up to this next roundabout, although it's a mini roundabout, we'll go on to those later. Again, this is another example of an open roundabout. As we approach it, we can see to the right that it's completely empty, that it is clear to go, so we don't need to stop. We can just follow our route round, knowing that it is empty, and we can just carry on. This one, however, is a closed junction roundabout. So as we approach, we can't see what's coming from the right. There, we can just about see the front of that van, and as we get closer, still at this point, we can only see the end part of the road. We can't tell what's coming up that road and how quickly. So we need to approach slowly, possibly even stop, make sure it's clear, and then choose when to go. Because with the majority of roundabouts, we only give way to traffic that is coming from the right. But there are exceptions to that. Here's another exception on a roundabout. If it's traffic light controlled, it doesn't matter if there's traffic coming from the right or not. What determines whether we go is the traffic light. So even if there are cars there, we go by what the traffic light tells us to do. And a variation on that is you can have traffic lights in a yellow box junction. So even when these lights turn to green, if there's a lot of traffic and you can't get out of the yellow box, then you need to stay where you are and not drive through until it's clear. Now here's one of those other examples where we're coming round the roundabout, but as we get there, we can see we've got 4 give way signs, which tell us in this instance, we actually need to give way to traffic on our left. So as we approach, we'd be looking to the left to see if it is clear to go, if anything was coming. If it isn't, then because it's a give way line, you just keep going. You don't need to stop. So how do we know which lane we need on approach to a roundabout? Well, a simple trick is to think of the roundabout as a clock, 3, 6, 9 and 12. And what we do is we split it down the middle. So if the exit that we need is 12 o'clock or before, we use the left-hand lane. If it's after 12 o'clock, we use the right-hand lane. Now, as we said, this is just a guide to help you. Now, there could be road markings, like at the bottom of our picture, which show that on that particular roundabout, the lane positioning is different. But as a general guide, using this is a great way of figuring out which lane you should go into. So let's have a look at some examples. In this top picture, we're coming up from the bottom, so third exit is at 12 o'clock, so left-hand lane. The second example, third exit is after 12, so that would be right-hand lane. In our next example, third exit, again, Canacan A5 is before 12, so left-hand lane. And with our bottom example, second exit is after 12, so therefore right-hand lane. So as a general guide, this really helps. So if we need the first exit, then it's just like turning left. We check our mirrors, we signal down before the roundabout, then everybody knows that we're going to turn left and come off at the first exit. In this instance, second exit is before 12 o'clock, so we stay in the left-hand lane. We keep in the left-hand lane all the way around, because remember, at this point now, there can potentially be at least another vehicle, car, lorry, scooter at the side of you. So you have to really follow that left lane round. Halfway past the first exit is where we would do mirrors and signal, and that tells everyone I'm not coming off at the first exit, but I am coming off at the second one. Our third exit in this particular instance again is before 12 o'clock, so we approach in the left-hand lane, we keep in the left-hand lane and follow it, and then we count first exit, Once we're halfway past the second exit, that is when we would signal to tell everyone, I'm now going to come off at the third exit. So what about if it's the fourth exit? Well, in this example, fourth exit is still straight ahead, so 12 o'clock or before, left-hand lane, unless the road markings say different, and we just follow it round. So again, we don't signal on approach, because no signal means we're just going straight ahead. And then we count first exit, second exit. Halfway past the third exit is where we would do our mirrors and signal to tell everyone we're coming off at the fourth exit. Now, very often we get asked, well, if I'm going straight ahead, do I need to signal? Yes. You still need to signal to tell everyone you're coming off at that exit. Why? Well, we've all at some time been the pedestrian standing in the middle of the road, crossing the road. There are cars coming round. They're not signalling, and we're thinking, well, where are you going? Are you coming straight ahead? Are you going all the way round to the right? Where are you going? But if the car has a signal on, you know for a fact where they're going, which makes it easier for you. The second reason that we want to signal is for any oncoming traffic. Again, the cars coming down have no idea where you're going. You know you're going straight ahead, but nobody else does. And it will probably happen to you that you'll be approaching the roundabout. There'll be a car coming round from the right, so you'll start to slow down, possibly even stop, and then the car just drives straight off at the next exit. Whereas if the car coming round would have had a signal on to tell you, I'm coming off at the next exit, you could have just carried on, kept going. So to signal, even if you're going straight ahead, to signal coming off the roundabout helps everyone know where you're going, and it makes you a more advanced driver. So now then, what about going right? Well, if we're going right, we get into the right-hand lane. And what we do, we signal right on approach. Then everybody that is behind us, everybody that is going to come up to the roundabout at the same time as us, knows exactly where we're going to be going. So we would keep in the right-hand lane. We go over towards the roundabout. We follow it round, and in this instance, because it's the fifth exit, we would count exit number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Halfway past the fourth exit, we would check our centre and left mirror, signal down, and move across to the left-hand side. That way, any vehicles that want to go quicker can overtake, get past, and also you're making sure there's not enough of a gap to the side of you on the left so that vehicles can come up the inside of you and potentially cause you a problem. However, if there was a slower moving vehicle in the left lane, say a tractor, a slow moving lorry, road sweeper, then you would be allowed, as long as there are 2 lanes, to stay in the right-hand lane and come off the roundabout like that. But again, as a general rule, we'd always come off in the left-hand lane. So now we've sorted our lane out, how do we know when there's a safe gap on the roundabout? Well, one of the ways we use is to think of that roundabout like a clock. If the car coming round is at or before the 3 o'clock position, then most times you'll have enough time to go. However, if the car coming round is after the 3 o'clock position, then it's better to just sit there and wait or slow down enough to let them go past. Another thing that we can do to judge a safe gap is to look for what we call blockers. Now, as we said on the roundabout, you give way to the right. So for the orange car who's coming across, we know that the car coming round from his right, he has to stop and give way to. So at this point, if we're going to go straight ahead, we know that that orange car can't come across because of the other vehicle. So as long as we know that the car coming round is going straight ahead, perhaps he's got his signal on, we know he's not coming round towards us, that's going to block the car from coming onto the roundabout. Therefore, we've got a safe gap to keep going. Let's see an example of this. So imagine that you're coming up from where the orange arrow is. So you're looking to the right. Now, can you see the cars coming round the roundabout? They now are going to block the vehicles that are sitting there waiting. So therefore, we know it would be safe for us to go. As we approach the roundabout, at busier times, you may need to make sure that you can clear the roundabout, or at least you're not going to block traffic. So as we approach, if we could see the vehicle where the police car is on the left there, we'd have to think, well, if I pull out now, I'm going to block that exit and stop the cars that are coming round the roundabout to turn right or going straight across from the right. I would now block them. So it's better to sit at the white line and wait till it is safe and clear to go. So now then, let's move on to mini roundabouts. Now, mini roundabouts are a lot different because with these, traffic like buses and lorries have to cut across them. They can't go around them, as you can see from this example. But added to that, unfortunately, you also get drivers who will just go the wrong way around them, or like this pupil who were on their driving test, try and follow that example and just drive across them. And this was the end of their driving test. So you need to make sure that you go around the mini roundabout. Now, they're designed so that it keeps the traffic at junctions flowing. So rather than get a lot of traffic waiting for the left and the right to be clear, if you put a mini roundabout in, it just means you only need to give way to one particular direction, which of course is the right, unless the road markings say otherwise. So the same thing again, is it an open or a closed view as we approach it? And that's going to determine how we deal with it. An open view is like this here. We've got the roundabout warning sign on the left telling us there's a roundabout coming up. Then in the distance on the left, we've got the blue disc, which means mini roundabout. However, at this point, one, it's an open junction. You can clearly see it's empty. And two, the actual roundabout is offset. It's to the side. So by going straight ahead, you're not even having to turn the steering wheel. So on this occasion, you're just literally going in a straight line. So this is one of the mini roundabouts that you could do at 20, 25, even 30 miles an hour if you were confident enough, because you can see that it is empty. You can see there's nothing to actually slow down for, because strangely, you're not actually going around the roundabout. You're just following the road straight ahead. So by contrast, let's look at a closed junction mini roundabout. Now that's like the bottom picture here. We can just about see the car at the white line, but we've got no idea of what's coming down that road behind it. We've got no idea of how fast it's going. And you can also see in this instance, the vehicle in front of us is cutting over the mini roundabout as well. So on this one, you would have to come up to the line and pretty much stop to make sure it's clear before deciding whether to go or not. So let's have an example of a couple of open and closed mini roundabouts. As we're coming up, we can see the blue disc under the tree. We look to the right, we can see it's an open junction, so we can carry on round it, knowing that it is empty. So let's look at a closed junction, shall we? As we're coming down, we can see the roundabout sign. However, because of the brickwork and the bushes, we can't see anything that's coming up that road on the right. In fact, once a cyclist goes round that corner, he quickly disappears. So therefore, it's a closed junction. We need to come up and either go incredibly slowly, perhaps a couple of miles an hour, or more likely than not, we have to come up and stop first. With double mini roundabouts, you treat them realistically as two separate roundabouts. So the first one you would approach and you would look to see if anything was coming from the right as normal. So if we were going right and then left, you would follow it round to the right. Then as you came to that second white line, again, you look to the right to see if anything's coming. So again, if you're sitting at that roundabout, turning left or going straight ahead, it's purely a case of, is anything coming from the right before I decide whether it's safe to pull out or not. That then brings us on to the final type, which is spiral or laned roundabouts. Now, the idea with these is, although they look confusing, very often they're on larger roundabouts, which means you can't see where the exit is. So basically, what they've done is say, well, find the lane that you need for your exit, and we'll take you there. So the key is just following the lane rather than thinking, where's my exit and how do I get to it? So the key to all of these spiral roundabouts is find the correct lane first on approach and then just follow the lane. Don't cross the white lines and it will take you to where you need to go. So on approach to this roundabout, we can see the left lane at the bottom says you can either go left, which we'd normally do at a roundabout, or you can go straight ahead. And that's exactly the same as we would on a normal roundabout. So we can either follow it round to the left, or we can stay in that lane, not cross the white line, and it will lead us straight ahead, second exit. Now if we're approaching and we want the middle lane, we can see in this instance the middle lane says straight ahead or right. So if we keep in that middle lane on the roundabout, we've got left, middle and right hand lane where the green arrows are. We don't cross either of the white lines. It either leads us straight ahead, or if we follow it round, it leads us round to the right. So the key, follow the lane. Now here the right lane tells us it's for going right. So as normal on a roundabout, we would follow that lane across to the roundabout. Then once you're in that lane, same principle applies, don't cross the white line on either side. So once you start to go round, you just keep between the white lines and it will guide you round and take you off to the exit that's on the right. In this case, right, third exit. But the weird thing is at the start, you're actually heading away from the exit that you need. But just trust the lane, follow it, and it will take you there. Now, it often looks a lot more complicated because potentially you've got 4 lanes of traffic going round at the same time. So that's the importance of just following the lane. Just look for where the left and the right white lines are. Stay between them. Take it a little bit slower if you're not sure, if you've been there before but you're not confident, or it's your first time on the roundabout. Just don't be rushed. Take your time. Follow the lane, and the lane will take you to where you need to go. And that's the key to doing spiral or laned roundabouts. So let's look at an example of someone getting a laned roundabout wrong. Now, down at the bottom corner there, you can see that the lane that the white van is in is for going left only. The white lines actually guide you round to the left. So if this driver was doing this roundabout correctly, he should just follow that lane round and go off to the left, because it is quite clear. Instead of which, he just drives across the white line and carries on straight ahead. Now, with just a bit of forethought and planning, he could have been able to look at the middle lane, which said straight ahead, follow both white lines like we've just been through, and that would lead the driver straight ahead, second exit. That's how easy it is to do a spiral or a laned roundabout. So we hope this video has helped you understand roundabouts, mini roundabouts, spiral roundabouts a bit better. If it has, please leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you'd like a copy of our briefing folder for the driving lesson plans that explains these roundabouts, the link is in the description below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel for more useful hints and tips. My name's Chris from Driver Training. Remember, keep well, drive safely, and we'll see you all again in our next video.